Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yo, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt.
And welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We are radio for the local craft beer movement. We're broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio Studios at Ironmonger Brewing in Marietta, Georgia. We're doing a special show this week. We had some, we're going to call it technical difficulties with our guest, Brian. So we're doing a fifth segment for our podcast listeners. If you're a radio listener, you're going to get an encore episode of one of our most popular shows. And Brian, I think I'm trying to decide between Stan Hieronymus' show, which was very popular, our Homebrew Off Flavors episode.
Oh, yeah.
And our Belgian beer episode with Craig Torres.
Craig Torres, yes.
Hop City. So I'm Tim Dennis.
And I'm Brian Hewitt. And we're doing this fifth segment encore thing. So this is cool. You know, I'm trying to decide which of those three segments I like the most, or which of those three shows I like the most. The Stan Hieronymus is very compelling.
In their own way, Brian. They all have their...
But Belgian beer is delicious.
Belgian beer is delicious.
Yes.
Yeah. Some interesting... They're all great episodes. We'll make a last-minute call on which show goes out there. So, an encore presentation.
You know what? I actually have a Belgian beer that I brought. A Trappist beer. It's not Belgian. I'm sorry. It's a Trappist beer.
Travis, what beer did you bring?
It's Tre Fontaine. It's actually an Italian Trappist beer.
Actually,
Tre Fontaine.
Tre Fontaine. Yeah, we did.
He's quite the athlete.
He is, very much so. So, Brian, a busy week.
Sure.
So we'll keep form here a little bit.
Okay, let's do
We're going to talk about what we did, and we're going to talk about the news some. You've got some news stories for us.
I do, yes.
So this week we helped celebrate 7 years with Monday Night Brewing. Went to their anniversary party, which is a great one. We've been, I think, the last 4 years.
At least,
I think we've been to the anniversary parties. Now, this was the first one that they did at their garage location in Atlanta. And if you are not in Georgia, the garage is their second facility on Atlanta's Beltline, a big walking trail and biking trail that circles the city. And it's just a massive space there. Such a great place to have.
It's huge.
A big party. It is huge. Absolutely. So, but they had a lot of beers on. I think that's
a tremendous number, yes.
Tremendous or a lot. One of those two.
Yes, one of those two.
They had an apple brandy barrel aged Tears of My Enemies.
Indeed.
Which is Imperial Stout, which was phenomenal. And their anniversary beer, Tie 7 On, is I think they call it a sour IPA with Brett.
I believe that's right. Yeah.
But that was great.
I think they had, was it 7 hops and 7 grains in that?
Is that what they?
I believe so.
I talked to Peter Kiley, their head brewer, and Peter was explaining to me that as they got older, it became harder to stick to styles and use all those grains and hops to do that for their anniversary beers, because that's what they've done, each year. 4 grains, 4 hops, 5 grains, 5 hops.
At a certain point, they're going to run out of grain varieties.
Looking forward to their 20th anniversary.
That's right.
That's going to be fun. So I also got a chance to stop by Burnt Hickory Brewery here in Kennesaw. They've just remodeled their tasting room. The way they were set up was pre-SB 85, pre-new Georgia beer laws.
Sure.
And it was kind of crowded. They weren't really set up as a place to hang out and drink beers and that. That's just wasn't conducive to the business model here in Georgia. But they did remodel it. They added kind of 2 new beer bar tops and some stools and that. And I'm not going to talk too much about them because I think we're going to have them on here in the next month or so.
Yes.
But I got to try their new Pilsner called the Revival, which I thought was really good. Really nice, clean Pilsner, which was excellent. It had a Digits, Brian.
Oh, yeah.
The Blood Orange IPA.
I did love the Blood Orange.
A good drinker. So, now, Brian, of course, you hung with me at the Monday night party. What was your favorite beer there?
It's interesting thinking about that, because you've got the Tears of My Enemies variations. You've got all the various things, the apple brandy and the Scotch barrel and the bourbon barrel, and the situational ethics, which I think people have forgotten about because the Tears of My Enemies. Also awesome, but seriously, my favorite beer there, or the one I enjoyed drinking the most and went back for at least seconds of, was Tie 7 On, their anniversary beer.
Yes.
That really spoke to me at the time.
At least seconds?
Well, I wore at least one of them. Not my fault.
I seem to remember that. What happened? That you got...
I think there was some animated talking happening, and somebody was gesturing, and somebody else was holding a pint of it. And I have a picture of it, and I've got a guy posing next to a very wet leg. So, yes.
And that was the beer.
That was
that
the
why
beer.
your leg
Well,
was...
I was also excited, but it was
Yes.
mostly the beer.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. And you know what, Brian? We want to introduce someone who's been hanging behind the scenes with us here for a little bit. And I think Sam's more comfortable maybe behind the scenes. Is that right, Sam?
Yeah, I don't talk a lot.
Okay, but we have Sam Kempe here. Sam is our audio engineer.
Hey, everybody.
He's working the wheels of steel, keeping things going there for us. But we figured this exciting little fifth segment here would be a good time to get him in and get his thoughts. And Sam's currently drinking one of our beers of the week.
Yes.
He's sipping a Locals Only from Monday Night Brewing, which this is going to come out Saturday, so they released it yesterday at the brewery. So what do you think of that one, Sam?
It's hoppy, juicy, and gnarly.
Is that your
What
do you think, Sam? You know what? He'd be great
It's
working
nice,
marketing.
subtle,
What do you think of this?
Unfiltered.
Just
I like
read the label,
It's easy,
Sam.
yeah.
Just read the label.
It's an unfiltered IPA. No, I really like it. It's great.
Are you a Northeast
Little
IPA,
citrusy.
unfiltered, hazy
I'm
kind of IPA?
tired of the citrusy West Coast thing.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Cool.
want it to be like malty, hazy, have some body to it. Yeah.
You know, there's a trend now kind of going back the other way of people who want those bitey West Coast IPAs back. So, Brian, you're on that boat, aren't you?
Oh, I totally am. Yes.
But you're equal opportunity, right? You like kind of like both?
I like all the variations. IPA has got so many different variations. Now you got West Coast, you got like East Coast, which is a precursor to New England. You've got New England, you got Milkshake IPA, and then you've got IPAs with sparkles in it, and now you have Brute IPA. I like them all, but I'm kind of wanting to get away from some of the haze and getting back a little bit more West Coast.
I'm going to ask you a question, and you can only answer yes or no.
No.
Okay. Are all of these beers IPAs?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
All of those were IPA. Well, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's been debated, with all the variations that were taken. It's been debated as to whether or not these all really classifies as IPAs.
As a guy who always enjoyed making experimental beers based on existing styles, I'm going to give them all the benefit of the doubt and call them all IPAs.
Okay.
Even those weird ones that barely taste like beer. You got a little bit of hops in there. If that's one of your main flavor components, I'm still going to call it an IPA. Now, some of them, oh man, that's a tough call.
It's a tough call.
Like, it's
The
darn near
beard
a smoothie.
has spoken.
Yeah,
That's
the
right.
Milkshakes.
All right. Yes. Now, see, I like the milkshake IPAs.
I
I'm
love
all
milkshake
about those.
IPAs.
But you remember the one we had up at Heaven and Ale in Chattanooga, the Hop Kush?
Yes. Yeah.
So just a little bit of the milkshake component, a little touch of the lactose, lots of fruit in that. I like those. I don't want a smoothie IPA. I've drank some of those, enjoyed them for what they were, but if I'm ever thinking I want a beer, much less an IPA, just a beer, I'm not going to go for a smoothie beer.
That is
the Hop
true.
Kush was the perfect balance of all of that. I really like what they did with that one.
They have done some really good stuff up there at Heaven and Ale, and I like that a lot. And I would still, I'm still calling that an IPA as a guy who's started drinking IPAs when there was only West Coast IPA. I still consider it an IPA, and I'd like to see more of the West Coast style. But I don't think there's anything wrong with any of the styles, Tim. I like them all.
Okay,
I do.
Equal opportunity, right?
I am very equal.
I don't
opportunity.
necessarily dislike any of them, but the argument has been made calling the super hazy, juicy IPAs, calling them IPAs, that we get to a point to where you don't have a clear definition of expectations.
That's true.
And I've heard a lot of people who are newer or maybe not as embedded in craft beer say that they're hesitant to pick up a beer that says hazy IPA or Northeast IPA because they're not sure what's going to be in there. Is there going to be lactose? Is there going to be fruit? Is there going to be glitter, Brian?
There could be glitter. If it's in a smoothie machine, my guess is glitter, or a slushy machine. It's the problem. I don't think the problem is with the styles so much. It's that people misuse the terms. If it's hazy, I think people sometimes get approval for labeling on cans where they intend to make a hazy beer, does not come out hazy, or they intend to make I don't know, whatever it is, but the end result isn't quite there. So the usage of the labels, unless you're very strict about it, can be misleading and disappointing to people who are expecting to get exactly what you say they're getting.
Absolutely.
If it's not a New England IPA, if it doesn't have that softness to it, don't call it that.
Right. And it could be a fantastic beer. But
Sure.
I've used this analogy before. Let's say you have a glass of iced tea, but in your head you think you have a glass of Coca-Cola. I think we've all done that. You reach down for your glass, and for a second there you think it's something else. and you take a sip of it, and it freaks you out for a second.
Throws you completely
And
off.
it's not that it's bad iced tea or anything. You were just mentally expecting Coca-Cola.
Oh, absolutely.
So once you can tune yourself back into the fact that it's a glass of iced tea, you can enjoy some of that good Southern sweet tea, which is probably very close to like smoothie IPA as far as teas go.
Yeah, probably so.
Down here in the dirty South.
I have definitely had stuff that was billed as a New England IPA to drink it, and I'm like, oh wow, that's not even East Coast, that's straight up West Coast. I'm like, it's a shock. It's a little, you're not expecting.
And
it.
when they first came to Georgia, and we're seeing this with the brewed IPAs right now, with people interpreting this new style coming over here. When they first came to Georgia, I think almost every quote unquote Northeast IPA was a hybrid. You still had that bitter backbone, you know, some pininess, some bitterness. It wasn't as smooth. Now we have quite a few breweries now that I think have nailed that style pretty well. You know, have done some really good things with it. But there for a while, man, if you got something expecting, you know, some treehousey kind of Northeast IPA, you were going to get disappointed here in good old Atlanta.
I'm still wondering if it's okay for brewed IPAs to be hazy. What do you think there, Tim?
I don't know. See, I'm going off reading articles, and I think I've drank 5 or 6 now that are Southern made brewed IPAs. But I think the style originated like Northern California or California, somewhere out there.
I want to say San Francisco, actually, but I'm not 100% sure. I think so.
But the ones I've seen, these beers are supposed to be almost look like water. I mean, the ones I've seen that are being shown as descriptive, you know, of the style there. But all of the ones I've tried, they've just been totally different. I don't know what to expect. I don't know, Brian. I just don't know anything anymore.
Well, I think it's interesting that one of the tenets of it, I think, is to use the amylase enzyme. And, of course, people are saying, well, this beer is dry enough. We didn't use it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I guess I understand that, but I think that dry enough isn't quite the idea of the style. We're looking for bone dry.
Right.
Like
if you're looking for something
left.
that, like, you know, drier than water, you know, below a 1 gravity, you know, you got to drive it. And there's going to be a big difference between a 1.04 gravity and a 0.99.
Yeah.
You know, or
and some of them are
there,
finishing at 0.99. Seriously.
Right. Sam, have you explored the brewed IPAs yet?
No, not at all. I haven't had one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're interesting. I'm enjoying the adventure of looking around and seeing what's out there, you know, finding them. I enjoyed the one that, again, Back to Heaven and Ale, they did an Atlanta launch, and the one they had was really nice. I like the one that Monday Night did, but it was probably the furthest from what I know of the style. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Brute Force?
Yeah, I think it was Brute
theirs?
Force, kind of a Saison-y deal, right?
Yeah.
A little bit on that side. Yeah. Well, you know what, Tim? I think it's time for Truck and Taps Beers of the Week.
Brian, as always, we've got some great beers to drink on, or we hope they're great beers. We got new beers.
New beers.
So we're going to check them out there. From Creature Comforts, we have their new Pilsner, Goodie Pils. From Monday Night, the locals only that we just talked about, their unfiltered IPA. And we also have their Mischief Managed Peach version, which is a new one on that. So the locals only just released. Mischief Managed is releasing, I think, the 22nd. And Brian, you brought us a little Canadian flavor, right? We got a Bellwoods.
Yes.
A Bellwoods Donkey Venom.
I think that's right.
I didn't know donkeys were venomous.
If you find the right kind. And they have to be up in Canada, I think.
And this is apparently a Brett barrel-aged porter.
Yes, that's my understanding. Right? Yes.
Very good. So, Brian, let's find out what's happening in the news.
Well, you know, Tim, Big Beer just can't catch a break these days. Miller Coors is pulling the plug on 2 hats after just 6 months. So you might be wondering, as I was, what the heck is 2 hats? It's a light beer made that was targeting the 21 to 24 demographic, and it came in lime and pineapple flavors. Where have we heard this before? Anyway, so it was a lighter beer, 4.2%, and it was cheap, which is kind of one of the big selling points.
I found out that they launched this beer from the press release of them discontinuing the beer. So that's how I heard about it.
To be honest, that's how I learned about it too, but it's just too good a story not to pass up. So they didn't use traditional advertising in this beer, which is why you probably didn't hear about it. Okay. They went out on social media and used so-called influencers, and I'm really air quoting as hard as I can right now.
You're going to break your fingers.
Oh my, yeah. They're in such pain right now. And they did some tasting at beer events, and the advertising has a strong fellow kids feel to it, Tim. And I think the
that
kids,
doesn't surprise me.
The kids saw through that. So,
well, they either, Brian, we're not connected with the influencers, or they didn't do very good choosing their influencers.
No, they picked the very wrong influencers.
Yeah.
So anyway, the decision was made to pull the resources from the brand because Miller and Coors Light are getting hammered in a bad way. They've lost about 5% in the last quarter, each of them, and they're going to refocus their resources on those. I'm hoping, Tim, that they can refocus some of the resources to putting the key back in Keystone.
Maybe they can, Brian. That was a good one.
Yes.
Can we give Kate a little
little golf clap? Thank you. Thank you very much.
You don't get a golf clap for yourself. So.
Well, I wanted to add some depth to the golf clap. So we've got some news that's just the complete opposite in just about every way. We've got Canarchy Craft Brewing Collective. They are up 15% so far this year, which means they are outpacing the rate of growth in craft beer market as a whole. That they were growing at 5%. We talked about that last week. And I think a lot of this growth is probably part of due to their aggressive acquisitions of breweries lately, including Deep Ellum and Three Weavers in the past couple of months. But there's also the whole 63% growth in Cigar City's High Life sales. That is the third best-selling canned craft beer in the U.S. right now.
No kidding.
No
How
kidding.
about that?
No kidding.
What's 1 and 2, Brian? You knew I was going to ask you that, didn't you?
You know, I didn't until this very moment, and I'm like, I regret my decisions in life.
Yeah,
I should have looked into that. But they also, and I don't know the other 30, but they also sell 4 of the top 30 best-selling craft six-packs in the U.S. as well with their acquisitions. So they are running the table kind of right now. So for those of you who don't know, Canarchy includes breweries like Oscar Blues, Cigar City, Deep Ellum, Perrin, Three Weavers, Wasatch, and Squatters. And in some out-of-this-world beer news, Illinois-based Crystal Lake Brewing has brewed a collaboration beer with a 91-year-old physicist. That's right, a 91-year-old physicist. The beer is named Parker Solar Pale Ale, and it was brewed to celebrate the launch of the NASA Parker Solar Probe. Who is the scientist, you might be wondering? His name is Dr. Eugene Parker, and the probe was named after him. This is the first NASA vessel that's ever been named after a guy who's still alive. So apparently he discovered or was the first to theorize the existence of solar wind, and it had a huge impact on the beer world and NASA. So, Tim, what
Brian.
hops do you think they used in this beer?
Comet.
Ooh, that's a good call.
Galaxy.
Galaxy is right. Ding, ding, ding. They
Okay.
use Galaxy hops in that. So it's unclear as to how much of this beer will actually go into distribution, but stories like this are, one of the things I like about craft beer.
Very
the
interesting.
stories behind it.
It's always cool to see little out of the ordinary stuff or just unique things that they're doing like that. So
yeah, it's a little bit more exciting than, well, we shot our beer into space or we shot our hops or our malts into space. Yeah. We've got a physicist from, I think it's the University of Chicago, who discovered solar wind. He's brewing a beer with us. I'm like, all right, you got something there. You really do.
I hope they made him grain out.
So guest grain out.
That's right, man.
I'm sure that's a tradition everywhere. Exactly. That poor guy. All right. So if you like beer, wings, football, and other things like that, I've got some good news for you. Buffalo.
What other things, Brian?
Oh, I don't know.
Nachos?
Yeah, nachos.
Pizza?
There we go. Pizza, nachos.
Jalapeno poppers.
That's a good call.
I can't say that all of those things are going to be involved in this.
Do you know that Lay's has a new jalapeno, bacon-wrapped jalapeno popper flavored chip, Brian?
No, but I'm really excited.
You can't have them.
Why can't I have them?
Because you're on the diet where you're just drinking all your carbs.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if you brought out a bag right now, I would eat them. Okay. I mean, I could totally have them today. I'm cheating today.
This is the cheat day, huh?
But speaking of beer, wings, and football, Buffalo Wild Wings is partnering with 5 breweries on football-themed beers for the upcoming football season. The beers available will vary depending on which region you're in. Here in the Southeast, we will get one from Sweetwater called Low Hanging Fruit. In the Midwest, they're going to get one from Founders called Third and Lager. In the Northeast, Harpoon's Simcoe, the Underdog Pale Ale. In the Mountain Zone, Colorado and the like, Odell's Draft Party Milkshake IPA. I'm kind of jealous of them, honestly. And on the West Coast, Deschutes Fantasy Football League India Pale Lager.
Okay. So do we know any more about this low-hanging fruit that Sweetwater is going to put out?
We do not. I have not been able to find much more information on it.
I bet we can find out on that.
We'll probably
dig
could.
Up some info there.
We could dig some stuff up. Sure. So Europe is having a rough go of it this year. There is a weather-induced shortage of barley. The hot, dry weather in Europe is killing off the crops, and in some regions, barley production has been dropped by 50%. This is causing the price of barley over there to increase by nearly 2/3. The shortage is hitting the craft beer market harder than the industrial beer market because big beer typically mixes in cheaper grains like corn and rice, whereas craft brewers are typically using all barley. The hop crops so far are unaffected by this as of now, but it's been rough for them. It's been rough. On top of that, Germany is facing a beer bottle shortage, which is crazy. Yes, Germany is facing a beer bottle shortage. The hotter weather has people drinking more, but they're not returning their empties fast enough. So the problem stems from a lot of breweries using custom glass bottles, very custom, that they have to order in advance, and they rely on a considerable amount of returned empties for future packaging. So you can't just throw your empty bottle into a recycling bin. You have to take them back to where you got them. And the problem is there are lines for these bottle returns because there are deposits that are refunded. So you've got lines and people are just saying, the heck with it, I'm just going to go. So why not order more bottles? As I said, custom bottles, they typically order them as much as a year in advance to get them. So it's kind of a big deal. And
sounds like Germany might want to standardize their bottles, huh?
It might standardize it. I thought go to cans, but apparently German consumers don't like cans either.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. With they're just breaking Reinhausgebot, there some. So
is it with cans? Is that kind of
no? But I'm just saying with the traditional, the traditional brewer attitudes there and the mentality towards beer, and admittedly, I don't know a ton about Germany, but I know they've stuck to that. I think there's a little variance now, but I could see them being about not liking cans. Brewing tradition.
For tradition, yeah.
Absolutely.
And you've got the special bottles. Everybody has their own special bottle. It's you have to respect that. So there is speculation that if this gets bad enough, some breweries will require empty bottles to buy more beer. This has been done before.
Okay.
Hofbrau in Munich actually did this back in 2012 when there was a shortage. So that could be on the horizon for them. And, it's actually a pretty good way of solving the problem. So, hey, you want some more beer? Bring us the empties.
Sounds like growler fills here.
It kind of does, right?
In the States, right? Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, Brian, some good news stuff there. Always interesting to hear what's going on around the world of beer. So I've cracked open this Sophie, this 2012 Sophie. From what I recall of it, fresher. I think it's a little tartar, fruitier, or a lot fruitier than I recall it.
There is a good amount of fruitiness to this. It's been a while since I've had a Sophie. I'm going to say it seems fruitier to me.
Which is like super pear-y to you?
Super pear-y, effervescent, very pear. Yes, pear. Very
Lots
strongly
of pear, right?
light pear.
Did you get this one, Sam? Did you get this? Check this out. Give us your dos centavos there on that beer. So that's one I've had for a while, probably 5 or 6 years. I got it in a trade there. So decided to break that out. You know what I want to try, Brian? Could you reach behind you into the Beer Guys Radio Studios beer fridge?
I will do that.
And get that Mischief managed for us. So and this is a Berliner wine barrel aged peach Berliner Weiss from Monday Night Brewing, releasing soon, a couple of weeks out, I think the 22nd, if I remember correctly, that's going to release. So we're going to check this out now. What do you think of that, Sam?
Yeah, a lot of pear.
Lots of pear, right?
More on
just
the
tons
nose,
of
though.
it.
Just
Yeah.
I'm not really tasting it.
So I'm looking at the calendar, and it looks to me like Mischief managed the peach variation here is releasing on Saturday, August 18th, Tim.
The 18th, huh?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So what do you think of it, Brian? You haven't got to it yet? You still
Hang on one second.
Still sipping on the last one there? Welcome to the team, Sam. That's how we roll here.
This is how we do it.
See?
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm going to edit that out of the show.
Yeah,
I'm
please.
gonna
Please
edit
do
that out for sure. So, Sam, has it been a little surprise to you, all the tasting? We're not heavy drinkers. We're heavy tasters here.
right. No, I prefer that. I like to just small amounts.
Just little sips of this and that.
Yeah.
We always have a lot of beers to try,
Mhm.
so it's always fun to check them out.
There's a good amount of lactic tart in that.
There is.
Very
Nicely. Almost with the fruit and the tartness, almost like a sweet tart. Tart candy kind of flavor.
Yeah, very much.
That's tasty, though. I like that a lot.
That is quite nice. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I enjoy that there's a good amount of peach in the aroma as well. It's like I can smell that it's going to be a tart beer, but I get that pulpy, like heavy peach heavy fruit, heavy peach kind of aroma in it. I like that it's in both the flavor and the aroma. Yeah, that's a nice thing. Oh, look, it's hazy too.
But I think that's about enough for this week, don't you think?
I think we've covered everything, really.
Yeah, I've had enough of you. I've had enough of you for this week.
I've had
Just
enough
wanna
of
sit
me
here.
too.
So we're going to wrap it up, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. We do apologize that we don't have our show as scheduled. We were really looking forward to it, but sometimes these things don't work out. Brian, in over 150 episodes, if you count our special episodes, this is the first time that we haven't been able to deliver. So I don't think that's too bad of a track record.
Yes, but now we're going to have to start that counter at 0 again. Tim.
Like the thing you hang on the wall.
That's
with
right.
The lost time accident.
That's right.
There. Oh, man. We were doing so well. Such a good track record. But next week, we're excited. We're going to be talking to Against the Grain Brewery out of Louisville, Kentucky. They've got a brewery and smokehouse up there. So we're looking forward to checking that out. Please do like and subscribe to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Leave us a review. It helps us out a lot. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to drink local. Cheers.
Cheers.
The Beer Guys Radio Show on the Beer Guys Radio Network. BeerGuysRadio.com.